Shinji Mikami, an absolute legend, the Chad that brought us masterpieces such as Resident Evil, Dino Crisis, Devil May Cry, and Goof Troop. Oh, when it comes to the survival horror genre or gaming in general, Shinji Mikami has been involved with some incredibly impactful and noteworthy titles, whether as a creator or designer. But there is one game of his that I myself always come back to no matter how much it polarizes me, and no matter the plethora of issues within. That is 2014's The Evil Within, which is what we are here to talk about today. My name is Patrick Burrow, and this is Critics Play Games. The Evil Within is a survival horror video game developed by Tango Gameworks and published by Bethesda Softworks. The game was directed by Resident Evil series creator Shinji Mikami and was released worldwide in the October of 2014 for PS3, PS4, Xbox 360, Xbox One, and PC. The Evil Within began development in late 2010 under the codename Project Zwei, with Shinji Mikami serving as the game's director. At this time, Mikami initially had no intention on creating another survival horror game, as he believed the modern day approach to the genre relied too heavily on action rather than survival, but he soon realized there was much demand for a new one, so he felt compelled to respond. The game was soon announced to the public in 2013, and with the belief that the tropes of survival horror over time became too predictable, the game was intentionally designed around making the player feel helpless by taking place in cramped spaces, ammo and resources are more limited, and promoting smarter, more agile enemies that prioritize running and hiding as opposed to head-on combat. These enemies were also very unique in concept and design, from the weaker enemies being jabbed with shards of glass or heads wrapped in barbed wire, to the boss enemies resembling trolls, mutated bioweapons, and even one with a mask wielding a chainsaw, which feels like an homage to RE4's Dr. Salvador, which is another game Mikami was heavily involved in. With all these things in mind, development seemed like the game was setting up for sure success and an outstanding reception from both critics and fans of the genre. Upon its release, however, The Evil Within was met with mostly positive to mixed reviews from both parties. It's a game that was developed around being a rebirth for the genre, going back to basics, making players feel helpless, but with this it seems to lack ambition as well as a well-rounded story. The game focuses so much on its approach to the genre that it seems to have forgotten how to develop and explore an interesting story with characters that are memorable and somewhat relatable. Sure, the game to this day holds up with its design approach. Corridors are claustrophobic, boss fights feel cramped and as if you have almost no room to move with limited ammo and resources at your disposal, and some enemies at times feel like they're impossible to navigate around or kill. But with this said, it has a lot of major flaws regarding tone and narrative. While the approach is there and somewhat successful in the game's first couple hours, the story feels incredibly bare bone and thinly layered. Our main character, Detective Sebastian Castellanos, is tasked with investigating a mass murder at Beacon Mental Hospital before him and his team are thrown into another world after hearing a high-pitched scream. Sebastian must now explore this world to uncover the truth of what is really going on, while also discovering more about the evil, malevolent presence of Ruvik that lurks within. In concept, this story sounds interesting enough to craft a serviceable, well-rounded story and world, but unfortunately it suffered from bad dialogue, jumpy narrative beats, and bland characterization that never develops or improves upon the game's 11-hour playtime. We know something happened to Sebastian in the past, but that is not properly explored outside of documents and notes until the game's sequel, The Evil Within 2. The story may have its beats and general concept intact, but it never builds upon anything more than just that. It focuses so much on the gameplay and design that everything else around it feels too safe and as if it lacks its own identity, or it more or less doesn't understand what type of game it wants to be in the end. It prides itself upon being a return to form survival horror game, but diminishes this by the game's halfway mark. From boss battles that take place on a bus that is just drive, shoot, mow down zombies, to a boss battle in a parking garage that's just run away, shoot, and pick up obnoxious amounts of resources available, to another enemy encounter in the final 45 minutes that just waves upon waves of enemies leading to a boss fight that is so ridiculously cluttered visually with a 30 FPS frame lock, and it even features an unlimited ammunition turret sequence. you fucking joking? The biggest problem with The Evil Within, even 8 years later, is it prides itself upon being one thing and focuses solely on that, to which it eventually loses its sense of focus and what it was trying to be to begin with. The first couple hours are eerie, uncomfortable, atmospheric, and tonally dark, where you feel the helplessness that they were going for, but towards the second half, the game becomes exactly what Mikami hated about the modern day survival horror genre, while also expending the greater narrative and picture. Sure, the gameplay is fun and it's an enjoyable experience while you're playing, but reflecting back on the game itself and what you just played, it feels far too shallow, and as if it suffers from a major identity crisis. Need I mention how Sebastian controls is far too flimsy, and thank fuck you can turn off that stupid cinematic mode. Who thought this was a good idea? I don't want half of my perspective view thrown out a window with these ugly fucking black bars. Overall, I can admit The Evil Within is a very enjoyable and somewhat exciting video game experience. Over the years, I've found myself returning to it more and more due to the knowledge of what the game's creators were going for. It's a game that fascinates me, and I always enjoy my time with it, but this isn't to say that it has a ton of issues due to a lack of focus on key elements due to its primary focus seemingly being on one key detail, which didn't fall through either. It's an experience I appreciate, and I'm glad it got a sequel as it's a massive improvement in every single way to the original game. But even 8 years later, The Evil Within remains an enjoyable mess. But guys, those are my thoughts on The Evil Within 8 years later, having recently replayed it and currently going for my Platinum trophy, which is proving to be a little bit more of a task than I thought it would be. From completing the game without any upgrades, completing the game on a Kumu mode, which means one hit from any enemy and you're dead, completing the game with a speed run of under 5 hours, plus the chapter specific trophies in specific segments. It is a time consuming process that has been taking me quite a bit of time, but I have been enjoying my time trying to platinum it and is an ideal experience I feel. Take out the story and the narrative and tonal issues as I said, and the game is on its own an enjoyable time even with some flimsy controls and the 30 FPS frame lock that is my god oh so jarring and can hurt with long gameplay sittings. But the platinum and trophy hunting experience I can say has been a lot of fun, but that's a video for another day. Guys, I want to see what you all have to say down in the comment section below as to what you think of The Evil Within, what is your fondest memory with it, what is your opinion on the game itself, and do you prefer this one or the sequel that came out a few years later? For me personally, I think The Evil Within 2 is a major improvement in every single way. But that's just me, maybe I'll cover it here on Critics Play Games at a later date. Thank you guys so much for watching. As I said, we here at Critics Play Games want to hear what you all have to say down in the comment section below. Do look out for more video game content coming to you all very, very soon. My name is Patrick Burrow, and this has been Critics Play Games.